14. Percy. As they started down the cliff, Percy concentrated on the challenges at hand, keeping his footing, avoiding rock slides that would alert the Impalsia to their presence, and, of course, making sure he and Annabeth didn't plummet to their deaths. About halfway down the precipice, Annabeth said, "Stop, okay? Just a quick break." Her leg wobbled so badly, Percy cursed himself for not calling a rest earlier. They sat together on the ledge next to a roaring, fiery waterfall. Percy put his arm around Annabeth, and she leaned against him, shaking for exhaustion. He was much better. His stomach felt like it had shrunk to the size of a gumdrop. If they came across any more monster carcasses, he was afraid he might pull an Impalsia and try to devour it. At least he had Annabeth. They would find a way out of Tartarus. They had to. He didn't think much of fates and prophecies, but he did believe in one thing. Annabeth and he were supposed to be together. They hadn't survived so much just to get killed now. Things could be worse, Annabeth ventured. Yeah, Percy didn't see how, but he tried to sound unbeat. She snuggled against him. Her hair smelled of smoke, and if he closed his eyes, he could almost imagine they were at the campfire at Camp Half-Blood. "We could have fallen into the River Leith," she said. "Lost all our memories." Percy's skin crawled, just thinking about it. He'd had enough trouble with amnesia for one lifetime. Only last month, Hera had erased his memory to put him among the Roman demigods. Percy had stumbled into Camp Jupiter with no idea who he was or where he came from. And a few years before that, he'd fought a Titan on the banks of Leith near Hades' palace. He'd blasted the Titan with water from that river and completely wiped his memory clean. "Yeah, the Leith," he muttered. "Not my favourite." "What was the Titan's name?" Annabeth asked. Lampetus. He said it meant impaler or something." No, the name you gave him after he lost his memory. "Steve?" "Bob?" "Bob," Percy said. Annabeth managed a weak laugh. Bob the Titan. Percy's lip was so parched, it hurt to smile. He wondered what had happened to Lampetus after they'd left him in Hades' palace. If he was still content being Bob, friendly, happy, and clueless. Percy hoped so, but the underworld seemed to bring out the worst in everyone. Monsters, heroes, and gods. He gazed across the ashen plains. The other Titans were supposed to be here in Tartarus. Maybe bound in chains, or roaming aimlessly, or hiding in some of those dark crevices. Percy and his allies had destroyed the worst Titan, Cronus. But even his remains might be down here somewhere. A billion angry Titan particles floating through the blood-coloured clouds or lurking in that dark fog. Percy decided not to think about that. He kissed Annabeth's forehead. We should keep moving. You want some more fire to drink? I'll pass. They struggled to their feet. The rest of the cliff looked impossible to descend. Nothing more than a cross-hatching of tiny ledges. But they kept climbing down. Percy's body went on autopilot. His fingers cramped, his felt blisters popping up on his ankles. He was shaky from hunger. He wondered if they would die of starvation or if the firewater would keep them going. He remembered the punishment of Tantalus, who had been permanently stuck in the pool of water under a fruit tree, but couldn't reach either food or drink. Geez, Percy hadn't thought about Tantalus in years. That stupid guy had been paroled briefly to serve as director at Camp Half-Blood. Probably he was back in the field of punishment. Percy had never felt sorry for the jerk before, but now he was starting to sympathize. He could imagine what it would be like getting hungrier and hungrier for eternity, but never being able to eat. Keep climbing, he told himself. Cheeseburger, his stomach replied. Shut up, he thought. With fries, his stomach complained. 1 billion years later, with a dozen new blisters on his feet, Percy reached the bottom. He helped Annabeth down and they collapsed on the ground. Ahead of them stretched miles of wasteland, bubbling with monstrous larvae and big insect hair trees. To their right, the phlegethons split into branches that etched the plain, widening into a delta of smoke and fire. To the north, along the main route of the river, the ground was riddled with cave entrances here and there. Spires of rock jutted up like exclamation points under Percy's hand. The soil felt alarmingly warm and smooth. He tried to grab a handful, then realized that under a thin layer of dirt and debris, the ground was a single vast membrane like skin. He almost threw up, but forced himself not to. There was nothing in his stomach but fire. He didn't mention it to Annabeth, but he started to feel something was watching them. Something vast and malevolent. He couldn't zero in on it because the presence was all around them. Watching was the wrong word too. That implied eyes, and this thing was simply aware of them. The ridges above them now looked less steps and more like rows of massive teeth. The spires of rock looked like broken ribs, as if the ground was skin. Percy forced those thoughts aside. This place was just freaking him out. That was all. Annabeth stood, wiping soot from her face. She gazed towards the darkness of the horizon. We're going to be completely exposed crossing this plain. About 100 yards ahead of them, a blister burst on the ground. A monster clawed its way out. A glistening telkine with silk fur, a seal-like body, and stunted human limbs. It managed to crawl a few yards before something shot out of the nearest cave. So fast that Percy could only register a dark green reptilian head. The monster snatched squealing Telkin in its jaws and dragged it into the darkness, reborn into Tara's for 2 seconds, only to be eaten. Percy wondered if that Telkin hill would pop up in some other place in Tara's, and how long it would take to reform. He swallowed down the sour taste of firewater. Oh yeah, this will be fun. Annabeth helped him to his feet. He took one last look at the cliffs. There was no going back. He would have given 1,000 gold drachmas to have Frank Zhang with them right now. Good old Frank, who always seemed to show when he needed, and could turn into an eagle or dragonfly them across the stupid wasteland. They started walking, trying to avoid the cave entrances, sticking close to the bank of the river. They were just skirting off on one of the spies when a glint of movement caught Percy's eyes. Something darting between their rocks to the right. A monster following them, or maybe it was just some random baddie heading for the doors of death. Suddenly he remembered why they were following this route, and he froze in his track. The Impulsia! He grabbed Annabeth's arm. Where are they? Annabeth scanned a 360, her grey eyes bright with alarm. Maybe the demon ladies had been snapped up by a sweet reptile in the cave. If the Impulsia was still ahead of them, they should have been visible somewhere on the plains, unless they were hiding. Too late, Percy drew his sword. The Impulsia emerged from the rocks all around them, 4 of them forming a ring, a perfect trap. Kelly limped forward on their mismatched legs. Her fiery hair burned across her shoulders like a miniature phlegethon waterfall. Her tattered cheerleader outfit was splattered with rusty brown stains, and Percy was pretty sure they weren't ketchup. She fixed him with her glowing red eyes and bared her fang. Percy Jackson, she cooed. How awesome! I don't even have to return to the mortal world to destroy you. Percy. Chapter 15. Percy recalled how dangerous Kelly had been the last time they'd fought in the labyrinth. Despite those mismatched legs, she could move fast when she wanted to. She dodged his sword, strikes, and would have eaten his face if Annabeth hadn't stabbed her from behind her. Now she has 4 friends with her. And your friend Annabeth is with you. Kelly hissed with laughter. Oh yeah, I totally remember her. Kelly touched her own sternum, where the tip of her knife had excited when Annabeth had stabbed her in the back. What's the matter, daughter of Adana? Don't have your weapon? Bummer. I'd use it to kill you. Percy tried to think. He and Annabeth stood shoulder to shoulder, as they had many times before, ready to fight. But neither of them was in good shape for battle. Annabeth was empty-handed. They were hopelessly outnumbered. There was nowhere to run. No help coming. Briefly, Percy considered calling for Mrs. O'Leary, his hell-hand friend, who could shadow travel. Even if she heard him, she could make it into Tartarus. This was where monsters went when they died. Calling her here might kill her, or turn her back to her natural state as a fierce monster. No, he couldn't do that to his dog, so with no help, fighting was a long shot. That left Annabeth's favourite tactics: trickery, talk, delay. So, he started, I guess you're wondering what we're doing in Tartarus. Kelly snickered. Not really. I just want to kill you. That's what. That would have been it. But Annabeth chimed in. Too bad, he said, because you have no idea what's on in the mortal world. The other Impulsia circled, watching Kelly for a cue to attack. But the ex-cheerleader only snarled, crouching out for reach of Percy's sword. We know enough, Kelly said. Gaia has spoken. You're heading toward a major defeat. And Beth sounded so confident, even Percy was impressed. She glanced at the other Impausia one by one, then pointing accusingly at Helly. This one claims she's leading you to a victory. She's lying. The last time she was in the mortal world, Kelly was in charge of keeping my friend Luke Castellan faithful to Cronus. In the end, Luke rejected him. He gave his life to expel Cronus. The Titans lost because Kelly failed. Now Kelly wants to lead you to another disaster. The other Impausia muttered and shifted uneasily. Enough! Kelly's fingernails grew into long black talons. She glanced at Annabeth as if imagining her sliced into small pieces. Percy was pretty sure Kelly had a thing for Luke Percy was pretty sure Kelly had a thing for Luke Castellan. Luke had that effect on girls. Even donkey-legged vampires. And Percy wasn't sure bringing up his name was such a good idea. The girl lies, Kelly said. So the Titans lost. Fine, that was part of the plan to wake Gaia. Now the Earth Mother and her giants will destroy the mortal world, and we will totally feast on demigods. The other vampires gnashed their teeth in a frenzy of excitement, but Percy had been in the middle of a school of sharks. When their water was full of blood, that wasn't nearly as scary as Impausia ready to feed. He prepared to attack. But how many could he dispatch? Before they overwhelmed him, it wouldn't be enough. The demigods have united! Annabeth yelled, You'd better think twice before you attack us. Romans and Greeks will fight you together. You don't stand a chance. The Impausia backed up nervously, hissing, Romany. Percy guessed they'd had experience with the 12th Legion before, and it hadn't worked out well for them. Yeah! You bet Romany! Percy bared his forearm and showed them the brand he got at Camp Jupiter. The spore mark with the trident of Neptune. You mix Greek and Roman and you know what you get. You get BAM! He stomped his foot and the Impausia scrambled back. One fell off the boulder where she'd perched. That made Percy feel good. But they recovered quickly and closed in again. Bold talk, they said. For 2 demigods lost into tars. Lower your sword, Percy Jackson, and I will kill you, and I'll kill you quickly. Believe me, there are worse ways to die down here. Wait! Annabeth tried again. Aunt Impausia the servants of Hecate. Kelly curled her lip. So Hecate is on our side now, Annabeth said. She has a cabin at Camp Half-Blood. Some of her demigod children are my friends. If you fight us, she'll be angry. Percy wanted to hug Annabeth. She was so brilliant. One of the other Impulsia growled. Is this true, Kelly? Has our mistress made peace with Olympus? Shut up, Seraphone! Kelly screeched. God, you're annoying. I will not cross the Dark Lady. Annabeth stood. The opening. Annabeth took the opening. You'd all be better following Seraphone. She's older and wiser. Yes! Seraphone shrieked. Follow me! Kelly struck so fast. Percy didn't have the chance to raise his sword. Fortunately, she didn't attack him. Kelly lashed out at Seraphone. For half a second, the two demons were a blur of slashing claws and fangs. Then it was over. Kelly, so triumphant over a pile of dust from her claws, hung the tattered remains of Seraphone's dress. Any more issues? Kay snapped at her sisters. Hecate is the goddess of the mist. Her ways are mysterious. Who knows which side she truly favours? She's also the goddess of the crossroads, and she expects us to make our own choices. I will choose the path that will bring us the most demigod blood. I choose Gaia. Her friends hissed in approval. Annabeth glanced at Percy, and he saw what he was out of ideas. She'd done what she could. She'd got Kelly to eliminate one of her own. Now there was nothing left but to fight. For 2 years I churned in the void, Kelly said. Do you know how completely annoying it is to be vaporized, Annabeth? Chase. Slowly reforming, fully conscious, in searing pain for months and years as your body regrows, then finally breaking the crust of this hellish place and claw your way back to daylight. All because some little girl stabbed you in the back. Her baleful eyes held Annabeth's. I wonder what happened. If a demigod is killed in Tartarus. I doubted it's ever happened before. Let's find out. Percy sprang, slashing Riptide in a huge arc. He cut one of the demons in half. But Kelly dodged and charged at Annabeth. The other two in Pausia launched themselves at Percy. One grabbed his swarmard. Her friend jumped on his back. Percy tried to ignore them as he staggered towards Annabeth, determined to go down defending her if he had to. But Annabeth was doing pretty well. She tumbled to one side, evading Kelly's claws, and came up with a rock in her hand, which he smacked in Kelly's nose. Kelly wailed, "Ah!" And Annabeth scooped up gravel and flung it into the Impalsia's eyes. Meanwhile, Percy thrashed from side to side, trying to throw off his Impalsia hitchhiker. But her claws sank deeper into his shoulders. The second that Impalsia held his arm, preventing him from using Riptide. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Kelly lunge, raking her talons across Annabeth's arm. Annabeth screamed, "Ah!" and fell. Percy stumbled in her direction. The vampire on his back sank her teeth into his neck. Searing pain coursed through his body. His knees buckled. "Stay on your feet," he told himself. "You have to beat them." Then the other vampire bit his sword arm, and Riptide clattered to the floor, to the ground. That was it. His luck had finally run out. Kelly loomed over Annabeth, savouring her moment of triumph. The other two in Pausia circled Percy, their mouths slavering, ready for another taste. Then a shadow fell across Percy. A deep war cry below from somewhere above. Echoing across the plains of Tartarus, and Titan dropped onto the battlefield. That's the end of the day, so please delete this time away.